Okay, Zen fam, I've been away for far too long. I've been crazy busy with work. So, with all the stuff that's been going on while I've been away, it's time for Mega Drop. So I'm going to take a whole big bunch of subjects and I'm going to smoosh them into this one video. It's going to be a ride, so hang tight, get some popcorn if you need to. Let's do this thing. Okay, so first of all, happy birthday to a Sony PlayStation. 30 years. I've been there since the beginning. Some of you have heard the story before when I got my original PlayStation way back in 95, early 95. My sister had a boyfriend at the time and I bought my PlayStation, my original Model 1, the first SKU, off him for 85 quid. I got that PlayStation. I got it with Ridge Racer and with Tekken at the same time. And I figured out the reason I got it so cheap was because the guy didn't know that what you needed with that system was the memory card. Now, some of you young bucks out there won't know that basically there used to be independent memory systems for the games on little cards that you would slot into the front of the PlayStation. Dreamcast had them as well, and it's been a thing that's happened before. But this guy didn't know about the memory cards. He was annoyed with the system, basically sold it to me. That's what I'm surmising. We never really spoke. My sister was the go-between. I paid the 85 quid. I got myself a PlayStation. That puppy, when we were together till I got my PS2 round about 2002, 2003. I was a bit late because it took me time to save up. And also I sold my original PlayStation to my friend Lana. She got a PlayStation, she was always wanting one. I got my PS2 and everything was groovy. And I remember when I got my PS2, I bought it on my way to my martial arts class that I used to do. And my instructor at the end of class that day said, "So, who's got big plans this weekend?" And my hand went up. "Sir, me sir. What's your big plans this weekend then?" "I've just bought a PS2 sir, I'm going to go mental with that." And he goes, "What games did you get?" And I hadn't managed to save enough to get any games yet. I was just going to be playing my PlayStation 1 stuff up-resed. I said, "I'm not got any games yet sir, I'm still playing PlayStation 1 games, but they're going to be up-resed." I didn't quite get that. And I think he sort of maybe made a wee bit of fun of me, but water for ducks back. I had a PS2, I was happy. PS3, I saved like a monkey for yonks and yonks and yonks. And it's like, and I got my PS3 literally about a month or two before PlayStation released the whole membership dealie. It's like maybe a year. And so I was rocking it, and I remember I saved up the money real hard. And I walked into Curry's, and that's an electronics retail chain that doesn't exist anymore now. It's Curry's PC World. But this was when Curry's was an independent retailer, and PC World was an independent retailer. Walked into there, and I said, "Right, Game are offering this. Virgin are doing this." Virgin was a music retail store like HMV used to be, and HMV's kind of coming back recently. So I said, these guys are doing this, these guys are doing this. I have the money, physical money in readies right here, right now. What can you do for me? I said, the guy went, "Right, let me have a talk with my manager." And basically the manager then came to me and spoke to me. And we worked out a deal, and I walked out that day with an extra controller and a copy of MotorStorm. So MotorStorm was my first game, because what I could have ended up with if I'd gone to game would have been, I forget what it was called, but basically there was this movie and it was about a polar bear and some sort of big fantasy fight thing. It basically is like a rip-off of The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, and it was a big movie at the time, and I don't remember it doing particularly well, but yeah, I could have ended up with that. I did try to get a second controller out of the deal, but the guy wasn't budging for it. But I got a good game, and that's all I cared about. And I played the wheels off MotorStorm. So one of the reasons I love it so much is because I'd played it in the stores, and I knew it was good. So I was happy to get it, and then finally dig deep into it and open up all the cars and open up all the tracks and open up all the customization and yada yada yada. Then with PS4, by that point I'd had the channel rolling and I was going along and I was making videos by putting my original Sony Xperia SP on top of my telly. Right now where my camera for my PlayStation 5 sits, that's where my phone used to sit. Didn't have a green screen, didn't have an intro sequence, all the phrases I use now didn't exist. My hair was brown. Oh god, crazy days, man. It's sort of like, so I started the channel on PS3, PS4 came along, and for ages I was just, I was making the videos like still with my phone, and then one of my subscribers at the time, a subscriber by the name of Lana Blart, I don't know if she still is a subscriber. If you're out there, Lana, please speak up in the comments section. She said, do you realise you could do this and this with PlayStation through Share Factory? And I was like, I didn't know, and I'd never really looked into it because I was just really thinking of my PlayStation as a gaming machine, and I talked about the gaming, but I didn't know it could really be used in such a manner. I thought the Share Factory was for making wee home videos and stuff if you wanted to. I thought it was another thing that Sony had made and would just sort of eventually throw away like in other things they'd done in the past. But no, this was something different. And Share Factory became very much the hub of this channel. And then so I was shooting at that art, and I was getting green. Then I made a green screen, and over the years, it's on PlayStation 4. The channel grew, and my technical expertise grew, and I got better lighting and stuff. And in these last nearly 4 years with PlayStation 5, I've made the green screen actually has now a proper green screen frame that you saw me get for Christmas a couple of years ago. And so now I can bring the green screen further forward, which means I didn't have to zoom the camera in so very much, so now I'm sharper on screen. I have a proper Blue Yeti microphone. I actually do have a microphone stand for it, but the lounge is kind of going through a transition at the moment. It's actually been going through a transition because we're still trying to make space for stuff, and it's been a long process. So I bought the stand like about 4 months ago, but I've still not been able to use it and employ it. I've got my ring light over there that I got for that same Christmas as I got the stand. So, and I keep moving forward, and I keep coming up with new concepts. I've done 22 episodes of hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. I've done 2 episodes thus far of Vertical Slice, although admittedly I'm not getting a lot of luck with that because I've reached out to so many people and organisations, and literally only 2 of them have ever come back to me, and those are the 2 episodes I've done. So if anybody knows anybody that's willing to talk to me that's from a different area of gaming that's going to be interesting, and you can make an introduction, then please, by all means, go right ahead. And then of course with PlayStation 5, there I was, straight after the announcement that fateful night, and I zoomed my bum up to the Fort Kinnaird, got to the game there that used to be my favourite game store, which of course closed a couple of years ago. You may remember that video. And I sat outside that game store from 11:15 till about 10 o'clock the next morning, waiting to put my pre-order down because I knew instinctively that all the websites would crash, and they did. So I waited there outside the store, put my pre-order in. A couple months later, PlayStation 5 was released. Thankfully, even despite all the big C happening at the time, they did do physical pickups, and I got myself to the front. Got myself to the store, and yet again, like with PlayStation 4, with Grand Theft Auto 5, a bunch of other games, and the relaunch and the pre-order night, I was first in line yet again. And of course, those videos are on the channel. In fact, for PlayStation 4 and for PlayStation 5, both for the launch first in line stuff for both of those systems is in 2 separate playlists, so you can check that out at your own leisure. I've had PSVR, I want PSVR 2, I've had all the remotes, I've had the moves, I've had the navs, I've had the sharpshooter, I've had the handgun, I even had the actual first party dock for my move and my nav, and I used to have 2 moves for the fight lights out, which I loved. I've played a zillion games. PlayStation has been very, very special to me. I've been there basically since the beginning, and I don't see myself ever leaving. And I could tell you millions of stories that I've had thanks to PlayStation, and that's one of the reasons why it's favourite, because I have emotionally connected with the system as the years have gone by, and I just like the ecosystem. Okie dokie, so the next thing to talk about, Ubisoft. Yet again, Ubisoft are in trouble. Oh, what a surprise! That seems to be something I've been saying a lot for the last 2-3 years. Ubisoft are in trouble. Now, it looks like they're talking about wanting to get bought up. Now, in the past, I have said that if Sony was to step in and buy them and make them part of the PlayStation brand, I could very much get down with it. I certainly do not want Tencent, because what Tencent will do is exactly what a lot of these other companies will do. They'll come in and they'll asset strip, they'll swallow up all the IP, drop anything that's not quite there, that could be close and could just need a bit of tweaking to be uber successful, and they'll just make it into a mad cash grab, make all the games like filled with microtransactions, and just spoil everything. Tencent, get it up ye, don't want ye. I want Sony to take it, not just because I'm a PlayStation fan, but because I personally believe that when it comes to their ethos of trying to make games and trying to make new stuff, and the way that Ubisoft have structured their games, I think it's very similar to the way that Sony have structured their first party studios. I think there's a lot of synergy between the two companies in their approach to game development. And I'm pretty certain that if Sony were to buy them, they would keep on producing games for everybody because they want all those revenue streams. You know, the games would come out on for Microsoft systems, for PC, possibly even Nintendo, depending on the strength of the games and the strength of the next Switch 2 or whatever it's going to be called. So I would like to believe that if Sony were to buy Ubisoft, it would be a good thing, and I would definitely be behind that. The only things I worry about, of course, are things like the Ubisoft points, because I've got quite a lot of those. But other than that, that's the only downside I can see. I am very much behind the idea of Ubisoft being bought by Sony. Now, there are some rumours that apparently the Guillemot family are wanting to have some form of say about how the company moves forward. Now, I think Sony would probably do a little bit of work on that. I think Sony can be quite collaborative. They've been collaborative in the past when they've bought out other companies, like when they bought out the people that made the Division, what was it? Not 343, Bungie. When they bought Bungie, they were dead collaborative. However, Bungie, the CEO, was kind of a naughty boy and basically bought loads of like high-end sports cars and stuff, and basically made a complete dog's dinner of the entire company and the standing of the development, which is why Destiny 2, yeah, and everything else that like Bungie has done the last few years has kind of been, well, a bit of a hot mess. So in that regard, I think that like Sony could definitely bring a bit of a tight leash on and make sure that they don't get ahead of themselves. And although they could probably work with the Guillemot family, I think at the end of the day it would largely be Sony's baby. And I think Guillemots are basically just looking to make sure they still make a bit of money. And that I could go down with, but I think if it was a Microsoft situation, where, by the way, they own way too much already, and I was sure that there was a part of the court case that said they couldn't go buying a bunch more stuff because then they would be too big. they'd be having too big a slice of the games industry. I'm sure that was part of the court case. Anyway, I don't want Tencent, don't want quite a lot of the companies actually. Then again, there's also been people talking about the idea that Sony could buy Take-Two. Now, I don't see that. Take-Two is a really super big company, way bigger than Ubisoft is. But if they were to buy Take-Two, then that would mean they would own a big stake of what is Grand Theft Auto, because Grand Theft Auto is made by Rockstar, but Rockstar's parent company is Take-Two. And yet again, I think that would be a similar situation where, like, I think Sony would want to make sure that they have the revenue streams coming in from all the various peoples. They'd want to sell it on Xbox, they'd want to sell it on PC, and if they could make it work on a future Nintendo system, although I don't see it with the way Nintendo make their systems, they're always a bit behind, but maybe the next again Nintendo, who knows? Anything's possible. Maybe they'll be able to squeeze Grand Theft Auto 5 down enough so it could work on the next version of it, or the next version of the Nintendo system. So Grand Theft Auto 5, probably closer to like the PS4 version, not the PS3 version, because that would just be taking the mickey, but definitely not the PS5 version. So maybe the PS4 version working on the next Nintendo system, if indeed Sony got that rolling. They definitely have the technical expertise. I mean, if there's one thing Sony have, it's talented devs and talented studios, and I think they could move some of that talent around and really make it happen, and I'd be up for that. And I think a lot of Nintendo people would like to have that. Of course, whether or not Nintendo would be up for it themselves, because although they would love to have a game that would sell like that and sell units, because that would make a lot of excited Nintendo fans to have a Grand Theft Auto, then Nintendo is normally not quite as happy with super adult games. They like to keep it more family friendly, so that's a discussion for another time perhaps. Also, to speak of discussions to have, another thing that's come up recently is the idea that Valve are talking about making a home console. Now, a couple of years ago there was the Valve Steam box, which was basically like a PC in a box that connected directly to a telly. So it wasn't technically a games console, but it also wasn't technically a computer. It was kind of a halfway house. But given that modern games consoles over the last 2-3 generations have become more and more and more computer-like, they're just a games console. It's just a highly specialised PC when you get right down to the nitty-gritty. I think if they get the controller right, that Steam could prove to be a shot in the arm for the games industry, because if there's one thing Steam has, it's games. They have got mad amounts of games. Now, admittedly, it would probably be a digital only system. It would probably be the start of the digital only systems if Steam come out and do this, because one, the Steam box was digital only, and Steam itself, there is no physical games. The only thing you would lose out from being a Steam user on the Steam console would mean you would no longer be able to rip your games down into memory and have them if the games go bye-bye, or you're told that the game is about to go away. So you couldn't rip your own version. That would probably be the only downside. But if it's got a big enough hard drive and it's got fast enough connection abilities, it could be a serious contender, and it could be something that if Microsoft do decide to just get out of gaming and just become a publisher and don't make systems anymore, it could be the very thing to keep Sony honest, because Nintendo is not enough. Nintendo and Sony are so different, have such different ideas about what to do for games and what to do for gamers, that I think a Steam console with a really good controller, not that Steam box controller with the mad pads. I had to go at it. It was weird. It didn't feel right. It felt nice. The good shape of the controller was nice, but those touchpad things, they were just I don't know. It just didn't gel for me. I just didn't like it. And I love tech, but no. So a Steam console, yeah, that has got serious legs. And as I say, the idea that it could be used in such a way to keep Sony pushing forward, because what the games industry has always needed and what it will always need is competition. Otherwise, if there's no competition, things stagnate, and you don't want games to stagnate, because then there's no creativity and there's no push to make a better product, and the same things will come out over and over and over again, and it's just going to be horribleness. So with that, I would really, really support the idea of a Steam home console. Whether or not I'd go and buy one myself, I don't know. But considering it would also be PC based, that would definitely mean that Microsoft would definitely make games for it, and perhaps some of the Sony games that have come to PC would be there. So that would cause interesting discussions at Sony for what they would do as regards the Steam home console. Because they couldn't really go gimping the games that would go there, because then that would look bad for Sony. But that would mean that, like, when they do a PC release version of games, it could end up then on the Steam box, whatever its name is going to be, that increases the sales of Sony products, thus giving them more money for future R&D. So there's a lot going on there. Then of course, the big one, the one I want to finish on, the one I really want to delve deep into, is all, and I mean all, the crazy right now surrounding Grand Theft Auto 6. Now I've got a lot I want to say here, so buckle up, boys and girls. Right, first of all these videos out there right now talking about trailer 2, honest to God, I've had enough here, because nobody knows anything. It's all speculation, it's all guesswork. People are looking at clearly AI generated imagery. They're looking at videos that have been put out by people who have said, this is a video I made to get the internet going, and then I made a video showing you how I made the video to get the internet going. And there's other stuff, and there's screenshots, and there's art that's all been made by other people, not made or released by Rockstar. Because when it's come to previous Grand Theft Autos and Red Dead and all the rest of it from Rockstar, there's never ever been a credible leak. Now yes, okay, last year there was that early dev footage that was released by that guy that hacked into the system because he got in through, like, I think it was like WhatsApp discussions or something. But when you get right down to the pure nitty gritty, that's the first there's ever really been in years and years and years. And as soon as that happened, Rockstar went into extreme lockdown mode. There was people that lost their jobs. And, you know, any channel that even looked at putting that stuff up online got their channels copyright struck to hell. A lot of channels literally lost out and stopped being because they put that footage on. There was channels that spoke about the footage, maybe used a couple of stills, and the young laddie that, like, who was apparently a son of somebody at Rockstar who put out the trailer one early, he was, imagine, he's still grounded, and his dad was in a lot of trouble. So the fact of the matter is, yes, we know a couple of things here and there from stuff that's been able to be picked at from previous ideas and things we've been able to sort of get from the trailers that we've had thus far, and some of the screenshots we've got, and some of the ideas that have been presented from production papers and from the demo sort of stuff we saw in that video before. We know a few things, but we don't know anything really substantial about the actual game, about the structure of the game, about where we're going. We know there's this number of gangs of different types. We know that it's going to have a Florida setting. Well, Florida GTA style. We know that it's basically Vice City. These are things we know. We're supposed to be talking about how the map will be extendable over time. Who knows? It depends on how well it sells. I think they've probably got plans to do more, but it depends upon the games and depends upon the prices, and if they want to just extend it for extending it, or extend it and make you pay for it. And if you pay for it, you get to go to these areas, but not everybody will want to pay for it, so then not everybody have the same experience, which will matter to the online mode. And then that'll split the game in 2 bits when it comes to the online. And if the online will probably happen like about 2-3 months after, like it did with 5. The only things we do know for certain is there's going to be a crazy amount of detail, and that there's going to be variable heights in NPCs and in player characters, because it's quite easy to see that Jason and Lucia are a different height from each other. Whilst when you look at Grand Theft Auto, everybody's roughly the same height. They might have a different stature, but all the people are roughly the same height. So there's that to consider. Now, will we see children? Probably not. Rockstar's never really done that with the Grand Theft Auto game. They've kept it so it's only adults who are getting blown up and set on fire and shot and robbed and kicked and punched and blah 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 blah. So they're kids. Animals? Well, yeah, we've had dogs and stuff in the last couple of Grand Theft Auto. In fact, there was even in the add-on DLC sort of stuff to Grand Theft Auto Online, there was even missions with Lamar and Franklin, and Chop was in some of the cutscenes. A much older Chop who had got into Lamar's special fun time products. I'm going to be careful what I say here because YouTube is YouTube. So that's everything we know. We know that basically we're not going to get to know anything about Grand Theft Auto 6 until Rockstar say something. Now, will they say something at the Game Awards? Probably not. Will they have an advert at Christmas? Who knows? Well, the only thing we do know is when Rockstar are ready to drop, we'll get an announcement probably about a week out, and then about a week later from that announcement there'll be a video, and it will not leak early this time because they are not going to want the same nonsense as last time. It's going to be tight. And there's going to be a bit more information. We'll probably might even get a little bit of gameplay. But what there will not be, and I can almost guarantee this. I mean, nothing's a guarantee, and I'm too small to know anything. But I can say with a fair degree of certainty, there will not be a date. There will not be a date. They might give a window. They might say fall 2025. But they'll not give a month, and they'll certainly not put a date on that month. Not at least till they're certain what they're doing. Because there could be a delay. All the other Grand Theft Autos have been delayed. Everything gets a delay these days. Sometimes you get a game that comes out early. Occasionally you get a game that comes out in time. But more often than not these days games are delayed because of testing and the audience feedback and Q&A and a zillion reasons. Also, sometimes games are delayed for hype. We get the game out then, and then comes and goes, and the whole internet goes boom. Where's the game? And then all of a sudden the game gets a release date, and it hits that release date, and the internet goes yay! The tale as old as time. Build expectation, then refocus the expectation to build increased levels of hype. Then from those increased levels of hype, you get increased levels of sale. We know one thing for certain though. I firmly believe that this new Grand Theft Auto with it being on this generation of console is going to completely and utterly blow Grand Theft Auto 5 out of the water. When you look at the skybox, the lighting, and the world physics of Red Dead, and you compare that to Grand Theft Auto 5, and that game, and how old is Red Dead now? We've had all those years to move up to this, and admittedly the tech in Grand Theft Auto 5, by the time it comes out, will probably be at least a year and a half to 2 years old. But even that in itself, they'll have had time to sweet spot that tech. So I personally think that the game is going to look and feel amazing, and there will be a level of technical detail that I think will be stunning. Now, the big debate is, will the game be more expensive than other games of a AAA variety from a big studio when it comes out at its release? Will it be more expensive than those other games? I want to say no, but then part of me also wants to say yes, because these things cost money and they'll be looking to recoup what they've done. But then again, they also don't want the bad press release of Grand Theft Auto 6, instead of coming out at 70 quid, is coming out at 90 quid or 100 quid. And then gamers will have to ask themselves the question, am I willing to put down another 20 to 30 quid on this game? Now, of course, how long will the game be, and what will be the technical limitations of the game, and what kind of a shelf life will it have? These will all be considerations, but they'll only be considerations in some cases once the game's been out and once it's been played by a bunch of people, and people understand what exactly they get to do and don't get to do in Grand Theft Auto 6 to make such a judgment call. But considering that the game is probably going to have most of its sales on launch day for at least the first year or two, then we only really now know a lot about the Grand Theft Auto 5 we've been playing for after about 4 or 5 years after it had been out, when people had discovered so much more. And while there's been 2 remasters and a PC version in that time, more has been added to the game. I mean, when the game first came out, remember, there was no first person mode, there was no peyote, there was no at first there was no even online, and when online came, it didn't have the heists for a very, very long time. So I do believe that Grand Theft Auto 6 will come out, and it will not be a complete project. I think, much like 5, they will be adding to that game for a long time to come. A long time. And I also think that, like, if there is going to be another Grand Theft Auto after that, then you're looking like an easy 10-year wait. Easy. I don't think it even hits the PlayStation 6 system. If indeed there's a PlayStation 7, who knows? I think by that point, you're talking about a game that's coming out like on PCs and stuff. Because it's just gonna be, it'll basically be like lifelike. And with a Grand Theft Auto twist, of course. What else was I thinking that I wanted to talk about in this gigantic drop? Yeah, there's just so much hype, there's so much nonsense, and the one thing that's really annoying me right now is the amount of scam stuff happening online. There's all these people going, you can, if you follow me and retweet this and like this and all the rest of it, you can, I will send, one of you will be picked to earn a PlayStation 5 or a PlayStation PSVR or some, or Xbox, or whatever the prizes they're offering. Know this, brothers and sisters of the Zen fam and fellow gamers alike who have stumbled across this video and hopefully have stuck it about this long. Pretty much every one of these competitions is a lie. It's false. It's preying upon your hope. Because if you get out your phone when you're looking at it, save the image however you want to save it, whether it be a screenshot or you want to do a direct save on Twitter or whatever. Save that image, go down to your Google bar, and in your Google bar, if you look to the far right of it, there's like a little symbol. There's like two little corners, top and bottom, so like the outline of a box and a dot in the middle. You press that, you take the photo that you saved and you put that photo into it. It's called a reverse Google search. Some of you don't know about that. Maybe some of you do, but some of you I know probably don't. Do a reverse Google search and you'll see that 9 times out of 10 that the picture that that person was using for that competition is stolen from somewhere else. Which technically means is they haven't taken a picture of a bit of equipment that they own or have in their possession to give away. They have taken a photo from someone else who has that piece of kit, who's probably going, hey, I'm doing an unboxing, or hey, look at this cool thing I bought. And they've taken that photo, they've put it in a post and they've sent it out. And the funny thing is once you see one post like that, you'll see about 4 or 5 or 6, sometimes more, of that post. And if you'll notice, you go from post to post to post, the wording, the verbiage copies across from post to post to post. They'll all say roughly the same thing, sometimes exactly the same thing, just with a different username. So, boys and girls out there in the Zen fam, be careful. Don't get taken by scammers. There's so many of them out there. And all they want to do is get either your data or your money. And a lot of them, they're like, what they're looking to do is get you to give you the details, and then they'll call you back on the Twitter or whatever and say, hey, you've won. And what you haven't actually won, because what happens is they ask you to pay for the postage and packing. And then when you dig into the company that does the postage and packing, it's a company you've never heard of, that's not even registered within like the House of Registered Businesses. You won't be able to find it. I know, I've looked at these things, okay? You won't be able to find the company. You won't be able to find any information about the company that does this. So what happened is, you'll send them the money to send the console to you that you've won. And then you know what you get? You get a hole in your bank account, and that's it. You don't won a system. You don't won anything. You've won nothing except a hole where you used to have X amount of money for the sending of this device that you're never ever going to see, because they never had it to send it to you in the first place. Sorry to end this video in a downer, guys. Hashtag support Scottish YouTubers. And of course, as always, nae bother.